Thank you very much indeed for coming back. And in this final session, we aim for this to be an interactive session. We have 2 roving mics on the floor, so if people could raise their hand and indicate if they have a question, just wait for a mic to introduce yourself and then pose a question or make a statement. Preferably, if you can keep it to about a minute or a minute and a half, I'd be grateful, just to try to get as many voices as possible. And this, of course, being very much a bit of an attempt to sum up on what's possible, what's not, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities for each country and each sector, and to almost try to break it down to component parts, what's really possible. So I'd like to welcome Neil Fernandes, who's been our host here today, Managing Director of the Central Institute of Technology, Miss Jeanette Allen, who's the CEO of Service Skills Australia, which is responsible for the strategic direction and overall management of the activities of the Skills Council. Dr. Mantha, of course, whom you've already met, he presented to us, from the All India Council for Technical Education, Mr. Singh, the Director of Training at the Ministry of Labour and Employment, and Mr. Ranjan Bakshi, who was Director of the Indian Institute of Skill Development, the IISD, which is very interesting, started its operations in 2009, in India, now has 3 functioning training centres, head office located in the capital of Delhi, and a growing student strength. He did his Masters in Business Administration here in Australia, and so I think just a very interesting perspective that he can offer us. So thank you indeed for all being there. Now, I'll just kick off with a couple of questions, and even just to sort of start out. Now, Neil, what would you say? You've been involved in developing collaborations with various groups in India. So if I asked you to really narrow down to what are the key challenges you face, because I know you're very conscious of the fact that you're spending public money here in Australia and you think that puts some boundaries around what you can do, but what have been the key challenges for you?
Thanks. We've been, the first time we went into India was in March of 2011. And the one thing that I drew from discussions this morning and from the examples that have been given is that we really are babes in the woods. What we saw also today was the fact that the agenda is very much evolving, but being a simple training provider, our intent was to get in on the ground and try and forge partnerships as quickly as possible. So I just thought for a minute I'd just touch on what our approach has been, and we've thought that it would be best if we were to try and establish partnerships in various sectors. So for instance, this morning we signed the MOU with CBSE, and the intent of that was so that we could start to embed a greater awareness of the intrinsic value of vocational skills in the schooling system, and I'm happy to touch on that later on if you wish. So the school sector. The second thing is with a couple of enterprises, one of which, Kalyani Skills, affiliated with an organisation called Bharat Forge, looking to build on the training that they provide to their own staff and expanding that to build the skills of the range of companies that are within their supply chain. And
can I just ask you, they pay you a fee to do that?
They
Question.
will.
They will. Right?
We're at the stage at the moment of signing an MOU, which was signed about 3 days ago, I think. The next stage of the negotiations will be about what areas of skill are the priority and then how much money will get paid for that.
Right.
And a couple of private providers, Dr. Ravi Singh is here representing one of them. I have to say that we are yet to actually deliver programs, but what I've tried to indicate is the fact that we've tried to establish a relationship in the school sector with enterprises and with training organisations. We're not sure what the model will be in the longer term. In terms of the challenges, I think that's been mentioned a number of times, because there isn't yet wide enough recognition of the value of the vocational qualification. I'm not so sure that people will be prepared to pay for it.
And can you tell me, because how did you find people to even begin to think about partnering with? Because it's quite a little story.
There is a story, Kieran. I hope you don't mind me telling the story. But I happened to play badminton with. I played social badminton, and one of the people that I played with the Indian basketball team, who introduced me to his wife, who is here, Kieran Sandhu. Kieran, you might want to put your hand up. And Kieran came on board as a research officer. We knew that she had worked in the academic sector in India. She came on board, did a bit of research, and set up a series of visits for us. What we didn't realise until we got there was the stature that she has in that community in New Delhi. She was an academic in the University of New Delhi, senior academic. Captained the Indian women's basketball team. And was able to get us to meet directly with the heads of organisations. We met with Dr. Singh, Dr. Jeanette, the chair of the Curriculum Board of India, and it's people would always wonder how it is we got to these meetings that no one else had ever been able to get to, and it was through Kieran's work. So it's a great credit to her that she's been able to do that.
So it was personal.
Personal contact.
And just, if I'm just very quickly, because you did say to me, I can only take certain risks. I am dealing with Australian taxpayers' money when I run a TAFE. Now, so how does that hem you in?
I've always got to be mindful of the fact that it is taxpayers' money that we're dealing with. So it's not possible for us to, put any of that at risk. So we have a sort of zero risk strategy. I was interested in the comment earlier that some parts of the Indian market are a zero price market.
Yes, I heard that too.
But we're also conscious of the fact that it is going to be a very long-term thing. I describe that as being a perspirational strategy as much as an aspirational one, but it is going to be a long-term thing for us. But we're always mindful of the fact that we are dealing with taxpayers' funds.
Dr. Mantha, maybe I should ask this Mr. Singh first. What are you looking for, theoretically, in an Australian partner? Like, given that, I appreciate you've got a very big brief, but when you outlined just the scale of that, what can an Australian partner, maybe it's at different levels, what can the Australian partner deliver you think might be really worthwhile, given the scale of things you outlined?
I don't know why have you chosen to ask such a difficult question with me.
You what?
Sorry?
He'll take extra time. How rude. I mean, gosh, I'd never say that. No. Certainly not at this point in the conference. Do go on.
I can talk only from government perspective. And the way we look as a government on skill development scenario. Our Indian canvas. Morning, you had one presentation between GMR and other counterpart. You must have seen that they have had a long-term planning. The second, that was between private to private, B2B model. You had one presentation between Victoria and state government of Karnataka and Maharashtra. They were not sure of what is going to happen next. As I was talking in the morning, you cannot think of Indian skill development canvas without ITIs. 10,000 ITIs, some 80,000 trainers, 1.3 million capacity, and And very important thing what I am going to say, I am not underlying my importance. The fact is we are blamed for this, but it's our strength, that our system is very, very centralized. Curriculum is designed by us, trainers training is managed by us, examination is conducted by us, certification is done by us. From curriculum development to certification is centralized. It is conducted by NCVT. So if you want to do some change in ITI system at local level, it's a very, very difficult unless you have NCVT on your board.
Unless you have
National
what?
Council for Vocational Training. That's what, while discussing with the AEI to Mr. Peter Nolan, I have told more than once. Even when I was doing video conferencing with Zonna and Mahajan, Bipin Mahajan from this side, I told, let's plan a collaboration between government to government and central level. Let's try to impress upon or try to change the system which is behind all the Indian problems. That is, now being specific, what Australia can support to us. I have raised this issue during our video conferencing. We have to look at system management.
Yes.
What are the systems we have in place in India? What are the agencies and what is the systemic structure in Australia? For example, the problem and solution starts with the standards. Then it starts with the Australia's biggest strength is the framework, recognition, social marketing, social acceptability. These things cannot be done by individual training provider.
So, to cut across you then, are you saying nothing can be done? Like, in other words, that's years. So
I don't say nothing can be done. In India, nobody can say that nothing is not there. Something can be done. But if you want to make your presence sustainable, you want to make it happening on continuous basis, you have to work with the government and you have to try to change the system which is creating the problem.
Okay, do you agree, Dr. Mantha? I mean, is this how, is that a similar take that you have?
I don't think we need to pitch one government against the other.
I didn't. I know.
But having said that, see, the current systems in India would continue to run. We have looked at, like, throughout the morning, we have always come out with India is a numbers game and so on. So you need several models and several new opportunities, new areas to be explored and so on. So therefore, the Ministry of Human Resource Development has worked for the last 2 years and has come out with this national vocational education qualification framework. Now what it essentially does is, it creates a bridge between the skills and the general learning, so that at different levels, certifications can be given, and at certain certification levels, a diploma and a degree can also be accorded within the vocational education space. Now, having said that, we are absolutely open in promoting that system. In fact, we have started the online registration about 3 months back for institutions within India. I mean, this is the first time we have started. So institutions within India have also applied to us online to be registered as vocational education providers. And we have also opened the track for trainers, whom we call as skill knowledge providers, who are industries themselves or their associates, to register on the portal to be providing the training skills in different sectors.
And that's how Australians could come in.
So that's where the collaborations would happen. The institutions would collaborate with institutions around here. The skill providers would collaborate with probably the skill providers here. And that's what we would promote with all that is possible within this system. And the collaborations can extend to the in the areas of IT, telecom. We have electronics and entertainment sector, which comes together on several new initiatives that are happening today. And therefore, entertainment is a very important sector for us today. Tourism, yes. And of course, there are other areas like mining, the agriculture, food processing, and so on. So we have identified about 10 sectors and 25 specializations. In fact, in the applied arts section, we have also identified jewelry design, fashion design, apparel design, and things like that. So all these specializations within different sectors are available today on the portal. There can be collaborations in these areas between institutions, between the service providers, and so on.
Well, let me ask Ranjan then, because I mean you're there on the ground doing this, Ranjan. What's possible? What's not? If I could ask it.
Sorry, you did not allow me to finish. I raised.
Well, it's just that I'm I'm worried about time.
I need 1 minute. I need
1 minute.
No, I need
right.
1 minute.
Okay.
See, because I raised the issue and you did not allow me to give the solution or how we look at it. We don't look at only problems. We look at solutions as well. See here. Now, we want the relationship from system to system, and system is not so strict. Government is not behaving that way it was behaving 10 years back. We are open for discussion at government, central to central, state to state, and we are giving liberty our institutes to interact with you, and we are ready to accommodate them within our systems. Even Ministry of Labor or Ministry of Human Resources or many other ministries which we are not interacting with them 10 years back, today we are talking and searching for the solutions. In India, as it was mentioned in the morning, it's not, if you are looking for business, certain things are very common, very clear for Indian skill space. Government cannot enter into business. Government will work as a facilitator. Government is there for collaboration, but if somebody is looking for immediate business, then private partners are the right partners. Thank you.
No, thank you. Very, very good. I think that was about 50 seconds. Excellent. Ranjan.
Thank you. Just to continue on that point, for us, it's a bread and butter. That's what we do to earn. And that's what I understand what NSDC wants us to do, to ensure that it should be profitable, that you run an organization like an organization and make sure in that process you provide quality skilled people out there so you get more jobs, you get more work, industries work with you more closer. And ITI is very fundamental. I completely agree with that, because we also in the state of Himachal are working with the ITIs and using their premises, and they are very flexible. The government has come in with a lot of flexible models. We're using some of their premises to conduct our courses pretty freely, and the way we want to interact with industries. And they have played a very good facilitator role. So I'll not say that, and it has been an excellent mobilization ground there, because whenever a student thinks about vocational education in India, they go to an ITI, and that's the fact. The whole concept of thinking about that there is another private institute which will actually train me in vocational is still yet to sink in and settle in the mind of any child or anybody who's actually looking at it. So we have to, definitely the power of ITI is a very important power. And we have used it, and we have successfully used it. We have an institute running within the ITI. We have institutes running outside the ITIs. We talk to the principals of ITIs. They're very knowledgeable too, and they have their own strengths. So I think that's an important point. And from our perspective, Australia can play a very important role to ensure that we're all very, I think compared to this table, I'm not even why I'm here. I think all of you are very experienced at a different level. But for us, what I have learned by really dealing with the parents of the children, going to villages and trying to really, because that's what we're trying to do, we're trying to mobilize people. That's our biggest problem. If you talk to any of our partners here, they'll only talk one problem, which is mobilization. These people are not interested to do the course. Even ITI classes goes empty when people don't come in to do a course. Why don't they come in? What's my job? What will I earn? If I do a BPO training, I'll make 20,000 rupees. If I go and do a sit in front of a machine and whole day, I'll be in the sun or in the heat, I'll make 5,000 rupees. So that's the whole concept. So industry has to play a very important part to start recognizing skills and start paying for skills. And it is not a problem for ITI, it's a problem for us too. And there's always a blaming game between industry that you're not providing skilled people, and we go back and say, well, what are you paying for those skilled people?
Yeah.
You know? So that's the whole idea with industry, because in India there's this concept. When I went from Australia, I studied here, I worked with KPMG for 6 years. And I went into India in a factory, and my friend goes and said, how big is your factory? He said, I got 500 people. I said, Anna, how big is your factory? He said, I got a lot of people. So the whole idea of a big factory is a lot of people working on one machine or working on the idle time. If you calculate in Australia, it'll be enormous that you will actually come out of that. So the whole idea is, yes, now the new entrepreneurs are different. The fathers have gone to the sons have studied overseas. They're seeing it differently. They're seeing more automation. They have seen the recognition of skills. So I'm seeing a huge transformation and change in a lot of Indian entrepreneurs, the next generation, who are seeing vocational skills differently. So somebody talked about patience. We have to have a bit of patience, okay? It is a changing thing, and I put the whole thing in the money or whatever we say into this business. And I'm a very positive person, and I'm very positive that this is going to work. And Australia can play a very important role in terms of helping the curriculum, the content, the trainers. We don't have good trainers. That's the fact.
Thank you. I mean, that's a marvellous account. I mean, finally to you, Jeanette, before I open it to these years.
I'm not sure that I can talk about providers particularly well, not being a provider. But I would think that providers are going to be able to deliver the standards that are developed. And I think from my perspective as a skills council, the skills councils have the skills and knowledge to help craft those standards to industry needs. I mean, what we do is talk to industry and translate what they say they need into something that can be put into a curriculum. So I think those sort of interventions from industry-type skills council interventions are really valuable and worthwhile. And then I think the training providers actually take that and deliver it.
But in other words, there is a market. So because that seems to be what Australians are pretty good at, is interpreting what industry wants, putting it into words and then putting it into curriculum. But is there a market for paying for that? Can you see in India?
I'm not sure that... I think the collaboration there is in the longer-term benefits of the people who undertake that training. So that somebody said this morning that we're in a global environment and that mobility, worker mobility and globalisation is really important. If we have standards that are built on similar foundations, then that mobility is going to be easier for people. So I'm not sure. I think it is, we're government-funded bodies. The skills councils in India are partially government-funded and industry-owned. There's got to be a greater benefit than generating a dollar in that perspective. But in the training delivery, that's a different question. Yes.
Now I'm going to open it. Just anybody, I mean, I can keep going, but would anybody like to ask a question? And we'll run around with mics, please. There's something that, yes, please.
I'm interested in hearing a bit more, I guess, about registering on your online system to be able to deliver training to the Indian vet market. I think that's what you mentioned today. So, yeah, I'd like to hear a bit more about it because we are operating in India and I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Really? Just quickly, what are you doing?
Training.
But I mean, where?
Well, I'll wait till I hear the response first, but anymore.
Coy, very coy. But anyway, you think, in all seriousness, that you could, that there's a lot you do not know, and you're aware that your own knowledge base could be better.
Oh yeah, I just want to make sure that we're doing the right
Fair
thing
enough.
by the laws of India when we're delivering training in India, and how we get distribution, I guess, via that platform if we're registered on your system to be able to deliver vet training in India.
So you'd like that to talk to me, yeah.
Today what we have done is opened up the registration process for both the institutions. There are two partners. One is the institution which provides the education content. The other is the skill provider, who is necessarily has to be an industry or an industry associate. Now this is open to Indian companies today. But what we have also said is, if there are players from other countries who would want to provide specific training, then they would have to collaborate with the Indian partners. And the applicant will be an Indian at this point of time. But that would mean that the collaborations can happen. And if you have a certain specific interest, you will need to partner with some Indian company for skill provision. And what we also expect is that there is a format on the portal which we have already given for an MOU to exist between the institution which conducts the education part and the skill provider who provides the skill training, so that the students' interests are taken care of. So if these things are in place, we are fine with it.
The portal?
The portal is www.AICTE-India.org. There is a link for education. Under education, there's a link for vocational education. Because we look at distance, we look at several other modes of delivery for education. So under vocational education, you have a whole lot of, there's a presentation. The presentation that I made in the morning also is available. There is also a flash-based movie available. And all the curriculum for the 25 specializations that I talked about in 10 different sectors, even that is available. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you. I just allow me for a minute to go slightly tangential to the discussion. In the skill space, my name is Sadananda, and a group in Hyderabad, in India, looking at the aspects of skills to which a lot of numbers are added this today, dimensions and size and scale. And the one thing that is important related to this is the livelihood issues. A lot of skills are required for making a living. So we talked about life skills and livelihood skills. And we organized a conference in Hyderabad in 2010. And life skill at one point of time becomes livelihood skill. For instance, in Australia, driving is a life skill. If you don't know how to drive, you cannot probably exist in most places in Australia. And it is a livelihood skill in India because if I am driving, I will drive for somebody who can pay me. So I make a livelihood out of driving. In another place, I have to drive to live. Although driving is a very upper class activity with at least you're able to sit in a car, so it is really luxurious, but it's a life skill for somebody in here. So we'd like to look at the dimensions of this, and we put up a conference in 2010. We were fortunate to get a very distinguished person to inaugurate the conference, Mr. Abdul Kalam, Dr. Abdul Kalam, who was former President of India. We are again planning to do this in 2013, and Mr. Singh is here, who is supporting our activity, and we'll tell more about it. If anybody is interested, please contact me. In any case, I have my cards whom I met you. I'll send you information.
So he's doing a marvellous advertisement here.
Thank you for giving me a chance.
I
didn't take much of your time.
Thank you. So these are life skills. Actually, I was talking to Neil earlier about the level of skills that where Australia can be involved and where it can't. I mean, and I know that in terms of just Cert 1, 2, 3 levels. I mean, this is something that you consider too, isn't it? And it's probably pertinent to raise where we can best, at what point we best deliver. You're probably still forming your views, I understand, on this, but I think it probably matters to talk about it a bit.
I think Bruce made the point earlier on that we shouldn't necessarily go in with a view that that we're there to deliver qualifications. I think a much better view to have is that we're going to work with partners in the building of skills. There are examples where qualifications are being delivered, and the Minister this morning mentioned Leighton's, where one of our Western Australian institutions is actually partnering with Leighton's and delivering a Certificate 1 in construction. And my understanding is that those the people who've been selected to undertake that skill development come from sort of surrounding villages, and it is a very basic sort of work readiness training more than skills deepening. So I think there's that aspect to it. I don't think we're necessarily at the stage where we can start talking about delivering diplomas of, vet. I'm not sure whether I've answered your
No, well,
question.
I was just thinking, it was just interesting because, I think that those life skills that the gentleman was referring to is probably something...
So these are people who've got, some skills, but what we saw evident was more of sort of putting those skills into the context of work readiness training.
Look, I think we've only got time for one more, because I promised Phil I wouldn't be... Yes, please.
Oh, hi everyone, my name is Antaj. I'm Vice President of Australia-India Business Council. Some of our members have asked this question, is that Australian qualification, if they get delivered in India, is the Indian government recognize this, whether it's a Certificate 1, 2 or a diploma? What is your government view to recognizing our qualifications? Do you have any mechanism in place? Thank you.
We have announced the Ministry of Human Resource Development has got this National Vocational Education Qualification Framework just about 3 months now. When there are specific proposals from, for example, from this country, where the local certificates and their equivalents and qualifications have to be recognized, probably what we will do is when such a formal application comes, we will look at the mapping of the skills and so on, and probably the recognition would happen at that point of time. But currently, I don't think there is any mechanism that exists which would map the skills here to something that is equivalent in our country.
One more thing I'd like to add from government point of view, that qualification recognition is mutual. I think it clarifies the position. I will again repeat, recognition of qualification is mutual. Thank you.